because when you asked me earlier in the conversation about what it was like, being Jesse's son when he won and things like that, I will say this: it was magnificent seeing people from every walk of life vote for him and put him into office. I remember when we had the People's Party, which was like right after he won, rather than doing like a stuffy convention or election night inaugural party where people are in suits listening to chamber music. He had a rock concert and opened up the Target Center, and I think it was like $10 a ticket. It would go to charity and like all this thing, and you had every walk of life there, all sitting next to each other, all celebrating this thing. But the thing that happened to my father that was really, really tough, and this is what people have to remember: just because you vote for someone doesn't mean it's a magic wand and they're going to solve all your problems, because he only had as much power as the people could give him, especially as an independent. So when he started getting into real just trench fights with Democrats and Republicans as governor, there was a lot of people that voted for him and then just kind of washed their hands and said, well, my job's done. Mm-hmm. And if you vote for someone you believe in, then you have to continue that diligence beyond the election booth and be there to hold the sign and protest, write your congressman, email them and all that, in order to say, no, I believe in what this person's doing, and you better support them, or I'm going to make sure that you're voted out of office next. You have to, you can't just kind of elect the leader and walk away, is what I'm getting to.
For sure.
Yeah, and actually, I think you make a great point about the very diverse, ideologically diverse coalition that your father kind of built when he ran for that. Ran for that governorship. And it brings to mind a quote from John Avalon, who wrote a book called Independent Nation, where he described Jesse Ventura's politics as radical centrism. I'm wondering if you think that's an apt description, because I think in a way it is. He really does, or at least at the time, and still does, frankly. But he kind of bridges that more like pro freedom, like socially libertarian, like no government shouldn't be telling me what to do, but also is able to appeal to people. He's just able to appeal to people on both sides of the spectrum in a very interesting way, and certainly to working class people in a language that most politicians were never able to muster. And I'm wondering just what your thoughts are on that, and also what third party movements in the modern era could learn from your father's success running one of the an actual successful third party effort.
It's a great question. With my father, I think what people everyone likes to kind of pigeonhole people into a certain, we love that, especially today. We're very, we've really kind of put the overdrive on tribalism to a certain degree, where it's like we try to pigeonhole people all the time. Oh, if they say they're for healthcare for all, well, then they got to be totally progressive on every other thing that they believe. Or if they say that they're for they back the soldiers, oh, well, then they must be complete wildly crazy righties. I think what we want to look for in candidates, and what my father was really great at, is he's an honest person who kind of said what his beliefs were at the time based on the information he had. It's interesting, as my father's gotten older, I think a lot of people kind of pegged him as like you kind of said, this more kind of radical libertarian, not deep libertarian, but like more of a libertarian belief system. But it's interesting because as my father's gotten over, he's definitely ventured far more, and even then was very much a progressive when it came to things like healthcare, and it came to things like that. Like I think his idea when he says government shouldn't be in legalization of marijuana, legalization of it, because in his mind it's like you can't, if making something illegal doesn't make it go away, and it just puts it in the hand of criminals. Where if you regulate something, then you're taking it out of the hands of criminals. Maybe you could argue that our government's just as criminal, but you're taking it out of, you're making it a safer thing at the end of the day. He's very pro Second Amendment, but at the same time, I think when he says, government should allow people to be individuals and allow them to do what they want, that doesn't mean that we let then everyone's individual and we just let society fail, and no one needs help, and no one needs a help up. And because the whole pulling yourself up by the bootstraps things is fucking crazy at this point. I mean, Jesus Christ, the bootstraps are, like I think I said the other day on the show, bootstraps now are tied around our necks. So the harder we try to pull them up, the more they choke us to death.
Yeah, we already got frostbite on our fucking feet.
Exactly. Right. And so Jesse's belief system, and one thing that I really give my father credit for is that he will admit when he's wrong, or he'll admit that, say, I had a belief maybe 20 years ago that I don't share today. And I think that's the other thing we have to remember too with people, is that we have to also allow people to grow. A lot of times we kind of, once we have an idea of who somebody is and what their ideologies are, that's it.
Yeah.
And, if that person then deviates from that, whether for good or for bad, or whether they have they learned from something and said, oh, you know what, I used to believe that this was a rotten thing. Now I actually see the light in it. If we don't allow for that, then we're really fucked, because then how the hell are we ever going to build a better society if we don't allow the people that we might fight with today and allow them time to learn the error of their ways? I think a lot of times you see this, especially in the activist community, it's kind of this all or nothing. You either believe what I believe or to hell with you, and I'm violently against you, and I'm never going to actually help you learn to be a better person or learn why I believe what I believe is the better way to go. And that breaks my heart when you get into like kind of the political activist communities that again, they're very tribal. And if you stray a little bit from the correct path, they crucify you for it, rather than saying, well, why do you hold this kind of, why aren't you believing what I believe when it comes to this issue?